In a recent statement, former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev offered a pointed take on the potential implications of Donald Trump's projected victory in the 2024 US presidential election, particularly concerning the ongoing war in Ukraine. Medvedev, who now serves as the deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, suggested that a Trump presidency could present challenging developments for Ukraine, particularly in terms of the crucial US financial and military aid the country has depended on since the start of the Russian invasion in early 2022. Medvedev's remarks reflect Russia's keen interest in the direction US foreign policy might take under Trump, especially regarding American involvement in Ukraine's defense. According to Medvedev, Trump's business-centric mindset and emphasis on reducing wasteful spending could mean significant cuts to the funds the US has been pouring into Ukraine's military support. Since the outset of the conflict, the US has contributed billions of dollars to assist Ukraine, encompassing both direct financial aid and extensive shipments of military equipment. Medvedev hinted that Trump, as a businessman first and politician second, might scrutinize this support more critically, potentially viewing it as an avoidable financial burden on American taxpayers. During his previous term, Trump maintained a generally reserved stance on direct foreign interventions, often speaking against protracted conflicts and advocating for reduced US involvement abroad. He repeatedly expressed skepticism about the value of certain alliances and aid packages, arguing that they did not always serve core American interests. With the war in Ukraine now entering its third year, Medvedev speculated that Trump's return to the Oval Office could reignite these debates over the extent of US involvement, especially in conflicts that do not have an immediate or obvious benefit to American interests. This stance could potentially see the US adopt a more cautious or restrained approach in its support for Ukraine, which may include rolling back some of the military or financial aid previously promised or deployed. However, Medvedev acknowledged the complexity of the US political landscape and the constraints that even the president faces within it. While Trump may indeed have a vision of reducing spending on what he could perceive as wasteful foreign engagements, the former Russian leader noted that Trump would still have to contend with the broader US political system, which is deeply interconnected with long-standing alliances and defense commitments. Medvedev admitted that while Trump is known for his assertiveness and at times unconventional approach, the intricate structure of the US government, with its checks and balances, could temper his ability to enact drastic changes unilaterally. This acknowledgement reflects a recognition that the US system, especially regarding foreign policy decisions, involves multiple stakeholders, including Congress, defense agencies, and international allies, who could all influence, or even limit, Trump's moves on the issue. Medvedev also commented on Trump's reputation for stubbornness, noting that this characteristic might be both a driving force and a barrier in shaping US policy. While Trump's determination to chart his own path might prompt him to make bold decisions, Medvedev suggested that the institutional power within the US government could act as a stabilizing factor, potentially restraining any sudden or extreme policy shifts. In this sense, Medvedev implied that while Trump's approach could lean toward reducing involvement in Ukraine, the systemic structures might prevent a complete withdrawal or a sudden cessation of aid. Furthermore, Medvedev's comments arrive against the backdrop of Russia's own strategic interests. For Russia, the idea of a scaled-back US presence in Ukraine would be a highly favorable scenario, potentially tipping the balance of power in its favor. The financial and military assistance from the US and its allies has been a crucial lifeline for Ukraine, enabling its forces to sustain a defense against the much larger and better-equipped Russian military. Any reduction in this support could place Ukraine in a more vulnerable position, potentially diminishing its capability to counter Russian advances effectively. Medvedev's remarks thus underscore the high stakes for Russia, as a less assertive US stance could potentially open new opportunities for Russian gains on the battlefield. Meanwhile, Trump himself has previously expressed a desire to act as a mediator in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, claiming that he could broker a peace deal within a short timeframe if elected. While this claim has been met with skepticism by many foreign policy analysts, it aligns with Trump's general preference for negotiation over prolonged military involvement. If Trump were to pursue a role as an intermediary, it could mark a significant shift in U.S. engagement, potentially prioritizing diplomatic solutions over direct support to Ukraine. However, Trump's intentions regarding Russia and Ukraine remain ambiguous, and his administration's actual approach would depend on multiple factors, including the composition of his national security team, public and political pressure, and the evolving dynamics of the conflict itself. Medvedev's comments reflect a broader anticipation within Russia about potential shifts in U.S. policy and highlight the strategic calculations that Russian leaders are making as they gauge the possible outcomes of the U.S. election. In essence, Medvedev's remarks on Trump's projected victory and its implications for Ukraine reveal a cautious optimism within Russia about a potential realignment in U.S. foreign policy. Yet, Medvedev's acknowledgement of the limits within the U.S. system reflects an understanding that while a Trump presidency might bring changes, the extent and impact of these shifts remain uncertain. For Ukraine, this scenario presents both a risk and a call for increased international engagement, as any reduction in U.S. support could necessitate bolstered assistance from other allies in Europe and beyond. As the situation continues to unfold, the reactions from both Russia and Ukraine underscore the critical role of U.S. leadership and the far-reaching consequences that the upcoming election may have on the global stage.